Hi, my name is Jessica Evans. I am an author. I wrote the book Fade to Light: How I Learned to Dissolve Darkness. And today I'm going to read you a short chapter. It's called Seated with Feminism, and it starts on page 222 if you'd like to follow along. So, I have a formative memory from a conversation with my mom. I was about 8 or 9 years old and sitting with my family at a meeting. At that age, I was still just a child, but with a developing awareness of myself and my role in the world around me. This was the first church I attended, colloquially referred to as the Old Church. The congregation was fundraising to build a new one because of the mold in the basement. I was first carried into that church as an infant. As a child, I learned how important it was to sit still and not fidget. Once I added a doodle to the wall, just a small line, so it would look like a mistake, like my pencil slipped. You could barely see it on the dark orange vinyl wall covering, but I knew it was there. The layout of this church was wide and shallow. On either side, the rows were 4 chairs wide and pushed up against the wall. An aisle separated each side from the 8-chair wide section in the middle. If we arrived early enough, our family of 6 could almost fill a middle row. If we were late, we sat on the right-hand side towards the front. I sat with my parents, with my brothers in the row in front of us. This time, we were in one of the middle rows. I'm not sure what prompted my thought, but it felt quite important to share immediately. I leaned over, and I nudged my mum. She turned away from her note-taking and rapt attention towards the sermon being delivered. "Hey, Mum," I whispered, my pride spilling out of me, knowing what I would share was worth talking over church. Her eyebrows raised in response. I had her full attention. "When I grow up," I stated, "I'm going to be an elder." Elders got to give sermons and lead the congregation by example. I thought that this goal was the highest I could aim towards. This was the proudest I could make my family. An elder! Me! It was a commitment to be on my best behavior for a long time, to set a good example starting now, from childhood. Mom's face fell. "Women can't be elders," she said in a low voice. "Only men can be elders." I'm not sure what went through my mom's head that day in the middle row of our moldy-smelling church with the burnt orange vinyl wallpaper. There must have been a look on my face that made her not take the time to think through the potential outcome of her follow-up. Technically, she should have kept me in my place and not introduced any ideas that were contrary to the truth lifestyle. Instead, she leaned in a little closer and smiled coyly. My eyes grew in anticipation of the follow-up. "But," she paused, "we'd be really good at it, wouldn't we?" I vigorously nodded in agreement, but felt confused. I knew that my brothers didn't include me in their fights since I was a girl, but the restrictions of my gender had never been so clearly explained to me before that point. In one moment, I was told that my biological gender came with restrictions. In the next moment, I learned that my mother and I had a secret to keep. We knew that we were capable of doing what the men do. It wasn't that we didn't want to. It was that we weren't allowed. The highest potential outcome for a girl of my upbringing was to be an elder's wife. I was trained from a young age to sew and cook. I'm pretty good at sewing and cooking. I was conditioned to care for my eventual family, including subservience to my husband. This was my reality, plain and simple. Men were the spiritual leaders and considered to be the head of the household. Women were background support. On that day, seated at the meeting, a seed was planted. I turned back to face the front of the church, but my attention wasn't on the gospel being issued. Yes, I thought, we women would be good at being elders. In fact, I could be good at it. It was our little secret. What if girls and boys were capable of the same accomplishments? I often reflect on that conversation as the moment that my mom unintentionally seeded me with feminist ideals. I recognize that the word feminist can be a loaded word for many, so let me define what it means to me. It's just the basic belief that women and men are equal. That's it. Some people have embodied the term to become so pro-woman that they're anti-man, but that's not the way I see it. We're equal, plain and simple. There you go. Page 222 to 224 from my book, Fade to Light. So little ways in there, and just outlining a really a really fond memory that I've just carried with me since I was little. And as I've lived this life and watched myself grow and how things have unfolded, I just think, oh yeah, it makes sense that I wasn't able to stay in this culty religious society for very long. I started to leave when I was 20. I actually kind of like 19ish, but 20, 21, and just stopped going altogether. I think I was. It's in the book. I wrote down the timeline to make sure everything's accurate, but I think it was around 21 or so that I just stopped going altogether, and I did my fade and picked up rock climbing instead and had that as my life for nearly a decade. So there you go. I'll put a link in the description to where you can buy it. I would love your support. Click any buttons that you'd like to down below. If you were able to like this or share it with anyone, I just really appreciate you being here. And if you could give me some support, I would love that so much. The book it was my life for almost 2 years, and then by the time it was released, it was no longer my life because I'm a mom, which is really, really cool, and I got to show up for my little guy. So thank you for your support. It's good to see you, and I'll be on reading other chapters as the days and weeks and years go by.